Last panel for today, like you've got on your programs, is navigating the market. So a nice broad sort of a topic that Vanessa's devised up for us. For those of you I haven't met, my name's Ben. I'm on the board here at the Writers Centre and also teach across at the law school at Adelaide Uni. So I was just over there this morning for the first year induction, and it's nice to be back here amongst people who aren't going to go home and read the Acts Interpretation Act tonight. And on our panel, again, I'm sure you've read their bios, and conveniently they also sat for me here in biographical order. Again, we've got a really nice cross sort of section of experience and perspectives on markets from each side, from other sides. Sue Hill, to my immediate left, is General Manager at the Big Book Club, which is has been around since 2002?
2002, yes.
And has as I'm sure many of you know, has a huge presence now in terms of literary promotion and literacy promotion as well, quite nationally. Next to her, Stephen Matthews, who's owner of Gin and Dera, started in Canberra and now based in Port Adelaide, and a really well-known small publisher here in SA. To his left, Emily Perkins, who is a New Zealand novelist here for Writers Week, and also tells me she's just taken up a position at Victoria, is that right? So made a move from Auckland to Wellington, and also has 4 novels, I think, under her belt. And lucky last, Sam Twyford-Moore, who is a writer and one of the hosts of the Rereaders podcast, and is also now, as of about 4 months, is that right, Sam? It's about 4 months, director of the Emerging Writers Festival in Melbourne, which is taking place in May, and I'm sure he can tell us a bit about that. So what I thought we might do is perhaps just go briefly across the down the line and get each of our panellists to tell us a little bit about their experience of markets, or and they can interpret that as they'd like, or a little bit about what they do and where they see that fitting into markets. And then after that, we'll open it up and have a bit of a chat amongst ourselves that you are welcome to join in as well. So, Principal, I throw across to Sue.
Hello, everyone. And it's fantastic to see such a broad selection of people as well. I used to sit on the board for SA Writers Centre quite some time ago, so it's quite nice seeing new faces. In 2002, I had a marketing company with another person, Fiona Lang, it was Lang Hill Marketing, and we were approached by Arts SA and Stephanie Johnson, which I'm sure a lot of people you know, to look at how we bring authors to South Australia and how we actually change the market within South Australia for both emerging and established authors. And so that's where we came up, and it wasn't unique, was the Big Book Club, where we would select a title each month. We would bring that author to South Australia, or we would select a South Australian author. We would actually promote their book across the state through media, and we would also take that author on tour across South Australia. So we did that from 2003 through to 2010, and we started off in South Australia, and the concept worked incredibly well. And what we were trying to achieve, and I think what we did achieve in South Australia, was that we wanted people to trust our judgment on our selection. We wanted people to read more broadly than just their natural genre that they thought they liked, and that's what they wanted to stay with. So we were challenging people, and we did that through our selections. We had a reading committee, but also we did it through media as well. So we had media partners, as in, it was quite easy in that you have the Advertiser, which is a statewide newspaper. We would also have relationships with local media, as in Messenger, but the other thing was that we actually had a relationship with all of the radio stations across the state as well. So we actually set up a lot of relationships, spent a lot of time doing that, and really thinking about what we wanted to achieve and how we wanted to promote authors, how we actually wanted to get them into the marketplace. We wanted people to know about them. We didn't want to just do it within libraries or within bookstores. We actually wanted to get out into the general market as well. So we spent a lot of time developing the program. It worked so well in South Australia that we got triennial funding from Australia Council for the Arts, so we went into WA, to Queensland, New South Wales, and we were looking at going into all of the other states until Australia Council for the Arts, which they do is change their mind and pull triennial funding after 3 years. So we went, okay, that's fine, and we actually just came back to South Australia and kept doing what we had started doing, but now we have a focus on early childhood, and we have a statewide reading development initiative for parents with newborn babies, and that's our major focus, that's our major funding. And we have the Big Book Club, which is online website where we select and still promote online every month authors and illustrators. That's it.
I've been thinking about this afternoon, and I suspect I'm a bit of a fraud on this panel. I've been publishing now for nearly 17 years, and if you think that I've got some marketing secrets to give you, then I haven't. I wish you could give me some. Marketing, from the point of view of a small publisher, is the hardest job of all. And I've made it harder for myself right from the beginning because I've kept right outside the public funding network, so everything I've done has had to come out of the scant resources that I have. Now, I'll be quite happy to expand on any of that whinging, but that's probably enough for now.
Well, I'm in Stephen's camp, I think. Thank you for inviting me here. I think it's... I was having a bit of a laugh at the fact that a relatively obscure New Zealand novelist have been asked to come and talk to you about navigating the market. And maybe my first tip would be don't be from New Zealand. And then I thought about that, and then maybe my second tip would be do be from somewhere like New Zealand, because what the advantage of small places, of coming through as a writer in small places, is quite clearly that it's easier to get yourself established, it's easier to feel part of a community, it's easier to know other writers, to meet readers, to know publishers, to know people who are working on festivals, and you don't lose sight of the fact that although writing is a solitary activity, being published is absolutely not, and I think you get used to navigating that change of modes when you're from a small place. And then of course the challenge is, how do you expand your own readership from there? And I'm the kind of writer who isn't easily put into a particular box. I don't write genre fiction unless you want to argue that what we call literary fiction is a genre, which is another conversation for another time, probably. So it's the kind of work where you are hoping that you'll carry readers with you, but you're trying different things all the time, and I write for a reader that's roughly like myself, and I hope will take pleasure in the things I take pleasure in. So that's about as close as thinking about a market during the writing process as I can get, is about pleasure. You know, where is the pleasure in this for the reader, whether it's on the level of the writing or the conceptual elements or whatever it is. But once the work's out there, I then see it as my role to have to work along with all those other people who are collaborating and bringing it to readers, and being, you know, it seems to me kind of a good time for writers in that respect. There are so many different platforms and forums and places for us to connect with each other and with readers. Not all writers are social creatures, not all writers enjoy that side of things, and sometimes it takes you away from doing the solitary work that you have to do for quite lengthy periods. So that's a personal negotiation, I think, that people have to work out for themselves. You know, what's the line that you're going to draw? Will you dress up as one of your characters and stand in a shopping mall handing out balloons? That's not something I've ever done. I did that actually as a job, you know, separate to writing, which brings me to my other point, which is to have freedom from thinking about the market in your writing process, you probably need to have something else going on as well, and very few New Zealand writers can support themselves from their writing alone. I teach creative writing not only to make a living, also because I love it and it connects me. It feels like part of my writing life. but yeah, it's a small scene, and so, sorry, I'm going on for ages, but getting in a roundabout way to reaching beyond that and being published internationally and having connections internationally and having an agent and having publishers and being able to travel with your work is something that maybe we can come back to, because I've talked
Yes.
I'm sorry if I sound a bit incoherent. I'm incredibly tired. I am in the middle of programming an 11-day Writers' Festival. Basically 11 of these days, and it's just all in my head. But I guess I feel like the other fraud on the table, because the Emerging Writers' Festival doesn't really deal with markets, or it deals very rarely with them. We sort of see ourselves as being more about community than markets, and probably tying into basically everything Emily has just outlined. That's what we try and create for writers, is that sense of support and kind of social networks, but also a little bit of the professional development and creative writing sort of sides of it. Our tagline for the last 3 years has been the festival for writers, and a crazy statistic, I think, is that 99% of our audience who come identify as writers, so rather similar to the Writers' Centre. There would be, probably 1% who would come and would say that they're not a writer. So, we're really there for writers, and that we want to promote their work, but that's rarely going out to the market. That's just more promoting their ability to create. And then we do some smaller sort of programs to help them sort of move towards professionalisation. And I guess that counts for me as well. Even as festival director, I primarily see myself as a writer, and for me the market element was I got into arts admin and management because it was the only way that I could make a salary. So ended up going down that path, rather like taking a creative writing teacher gig or something like that. You kind of end up balancing, but that became such a wonderful experience because you just get introduced to all these writers and you get to really support their visions. And I think that's the big difference with the Emerging Writers Festival. I think maybe one of the questions in the presses for this particular panel is, how do you get onto Writers Festival circuits? And it's really great to start at places like the Emerging Writers Festival because we actually run something that's the open call out. So we actually take submissions. A lot of the other writers' festivals don't do that. They are kind of more market focused, and like even really big name writers really have to have a book out around the timing of the festival, so that there's something to promote. But we're kind of a much more general and craft based discussion, I guess, which is the market difference.
Okay, I could just might return to you, Sue. I can see you nodding there. Do you sort of have a perspective on that similar kind of issue?
Well, it's just listening, because I'm not a writer, and I have great respect for writers, but it's something that I would never want to do after spending 10 years with writers every single month. And it's the pain that writers, they write from the heart. They write that it's part of them. I always, when I took an author on tour, I would treat their writing or their publication